They called me the failure, the disappointment, the one who'd die alone. My sister Harper wrapped that message in a silver box with a silk ribbon, a dating app for desperate women over 30, a book about accepting your single fate. She gave it to me on Christmas Eve, Captain Mitchell, in front of everyone. What she didn't know, I'd been married for 8 months. Everyone thinks this story is about exposing a lie, but that's not where this fire started. The real fire started when my family chose to erase my happiness rather than share the spotlight with the daughter they never wanted. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family, you'll understand this story. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. My name is Sloane Carter. I'm 29 years old, and the night I burned down my family's lies started with a gift that was supposed to destroy me. Whitmore Manor smelled like pine and cinnamon that Christmas Eve, the kind of carefully curated holiday atmosphere that comes from expensive candles and a decorator's touch, rather than anything genuine. I stood in the center of the living room, gripping a silver gift box with a silk ribbon, staring at what was inside. A lifetime VIP membership to Final Match, an app explicitly marketed to desperate singles over 30. And beneath it, a hardcover book with raised gold lettering, The Single Woman's Guide to Accepting Your Fate. The fire roared in the marble fireplace behind me. Outside the French windows, snow fell in thick sheets, blanketing the manicured grounds. But inside that room, the cold had nothing to do with December weather. Harper giggled. My sister's laugh was high and sharp, echoing off the vaulted ceiling like breaking glass. "I saw it on TikTok," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "The reviews were amazing. 5 stars for women who've given up on traditional dating." I didn't look up. I kept staring at that horrible pink app card, at the cartoon illustration of a wilting flower that was supposed to represent women like me, women who'd supposedly expired. "Take it, dear." My mother's voice cut through the room. Vivian Whitmore sat perched on the ivory settee, her posture so rigid she could have been carved from marble. "Harper's just worried about your future. Don't let your ego turn you into a spinster forever." My father said nothing. Douglas Whitmore stood near the bar cart, swirling whiskey in a crystal tumbler, studying the amber liquid like it held answers he wasn't interested in sharing with me. His business partner, Herman Beaumont, shifted uncomfortably in the leather armchair beside him. Chase Beaumont, Harper's fiancé, examined his phone with sudden, intense focus. I closed the box, slowly. My hands didn't shake, though something inside my chest felt like it was cracking open. 8 months. It had been 8 months since I sent those invitations, since I spent 3 evenings at my dining table in Portland, selecting the perfect cardstock, tying linen ribbons by hand. Owen had watched me from the doorway, his arms crossed, his expression careful. "Are you sure you don't need to call them?" he'd asked. I'd smoothed another ribbon, my fingers working it into a perfect bow. "They're my parents. They wouldn't miss this." The memory sat in my throat like a stone. I'd delayed the ceremony for 30 minutes, staring at those 2 empty chairs in the front row, reserved for Dad, reserved for Mom. The signs I'd painted myself on small wooden plaques, decorated with wildflowers, because my mother had once mentioned she liked daisies. That was 7 years ago, but I remembered. I remembered everything they forgot. "Well?" Harper leaned forward on the sofa, her blonde hair cascading over one shoulder in a calculated tumble. Her engagement ring caught the firelight, a 4-carat diamond that cost more than my entire wedding. "Aren't you going to say thank you?" The words stuck in my throat. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to run out those massive oak doors and drive back to the airport, fly home to Portland, where Owen was probably heating up leftover Thai food. But I was so tired of running. Herman Beaumont cleared his throat. Perhaps we should move on to dinner. I believe the caterers have everything ready. Harper's smirk widened. She knew she'd won this round. Except this time, something inside me didn't break. It snapped. Not my heart, which had been breaking in this house since I was old enough to understand that some children are treasured and others are tolerated. No. What snapped was something harder. The chains I'd been dragging around for 29 years. The ones labeled good daughter and second best and maybe if you try harder. I looked up. My eyes met Harper's. I watched her triumphant expression falter slightly. There was something in my face she didn't recognize. Something cold and clean and final. Thank you, Harper, I said. My voice came out smooth, almost pleasant. I'll keep this very carefully. I tucked the box under my arm, holding it against my ribs like evidence, because that's exactly what it was. Vivian frowned. Sloane, don't be dramatic. It's just a thoughtful gift. Oh, I know. I smiled. The expression felt strange on my face. It's very thoughtful, very valuable. Douglas finally looked at me. His gray eyebrows drew together. Sloane, it was a warning. The same tone he'd used when I was 16, and suggested that maybe Harper shouldn't get a BMW for her first car when I'd received a 10-year-old Honda. The tone that meant, don't make a scene, don't embarrass us, don't exist too loudly in spaces meant for your sister to shine. I held his gaze. Yes, Dad? He opened his mouth, closed it, turned back to his whiskey. Chase stood abruptly. I need some air, he muttered, walking toward the French doors leading to the terrace. Harper's smile finally cracked. Chase, it's freezing out there. But he paused at the doors, cold air blowing in, before turning back with a resigned sigh. Herman gestured toward the dining room. Shall we? The dining room chandelier threw diamond patterns across the white linen tablecloth. Vivian tapped her spoon against her crystal water glass. The sound cut through the murmur like a blade. Before we begin, my mother announced, I want to toast this very special season, the year of the bride. I watched Harper straighten in her chair, her practiced smile blooming. My youngest daughter, Vivian continued, gesturing toward Harper with her wine glass, will be married this February. 300 guests, the ballroom at the Four Seasons, a dress that took 6 months to design. Chase shifted beside Harper, his jaw tight. Herman studied his salad fork with the intensity of an archaeologist. Harper has always known how to do things properly, Vivian said. The word properly landed on my skin like a slap. With grace, with consideration for family. Douglas lifted his whiskey in agreement. He hadn't looked at me since we sat down. I cut into my filet mignon. The knife slid through the meat with barely any resistance. Vivian set down her glass with a delicate click. Her gaze swung toward me. Harper is settled, she said, manufactured concern dripping from every word. But what about you, Sloane? You're approaching 30. You can't plan to live with plants forever, can you? The table went quiet. Even the catering staff froze mid-pour. When is it your turn? Vivian asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. I felt Chase's eyes flick toward me, then away. Herman cleared his throat but said nothing. Harper leaned forward slightly, waiting for me to crumble. I set down my silverware. The clink of metal on porcelain sounded too loud. I'm not single, Mother. The words came out calm, steady. Vivian blinked. Excuse me? I've been married for 8 months. My mother's face went through 3 distinct expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, rage. Liar. The word exploded out of her mouth. Her hand slammed down on the table, rattling the silverware. Why would no one know about this? You secretly eloped in Vegas, didn't you? I didn't elope in Vegas. Harper's face had gone pale, but she recovered fast. Are you making up stories to ruin my engagement party? Her voice cracked perfectly. You've always been jealous of me, Sloane, but this is pathetic, even for you. She turned to Chase. Can you believe this? But Chase was looking at me, his attorney's brain clearly running calculations. I sent invitations, I said. My voice hadn't changed pitch. Via FedEx overnight. In March. My father's glass hit the table hard enough that whiskey sloshed over the rim. If you sent invitations and didn't get a reply, why didn't you call? His face was flushed. You did this on purpose, didn't you? To embarrass this family in front of the Beaumonts? And there it was, the truth I'd been circling for 8 months. They didn't forget. They were gaslighting me, right now, in front of witnesses, rewriting history while I sat here holding the receipts they didn't know existed yet. The last thread of hope I'd been clutching dissolved. The architect in me took over, the part that knows how to calculate load-bearing walls and understand exactly where pressure needs to be applied for a structure to fail. Under the table, I slid my phone from my clutch, found the message thread with Owen. I typed one word. Now. The message showed delivered, then read. I put the phone away and picked up my fork again, speared a piece of asparagus like nothing happened. Sloane. My mother's voice had that dangerous quality now. Stop this nonsense and apologize to your sister. For what? I took a bite of asparagus. For getting married? For inviting my family? Which part needs an apology? Harper's eyes were bright with tears that hadn't fallen yet. I can't believe you'd lie about something like this. On Christmas Eve. I'm not lying. Then prove it, my father snapped. I met his eyes across the table. Okay. Herman shifted in his seat. Chase had gone very still beside Harper. The chandelier caught on my wedding band. I'd been wearing it this whole time. They never even noticed. My phone buzzed once against my thigh. A text from Owen. System accessed. Ready when you are. I looked up at the 75-inch smart display mounted above the fireplace in the adjoining sitting area, currently showing a digital fire log that mirrored the real fire burning below it. Actually, I said, standing from the table, I think we should skip dessert tonight. I walked toward the display, my heels clicking against the hard wood. There's something everyone needs to see. Sloane, sit down. My mother's voice had that edge, the one that used to make me shrink. Not tonight. I stopped in front of the display, my back to the room. You always believe Harper unconditionally, I said. My voice sounded strange, calm, almost conversational. But have you forgotten what my husband does for a living? Silence. I turned to face them. Owen Carter, senior cybersecurity analyst. He protects Fortune 500 companies from data breaches. Vivian's mouth opened, closed. I don't see what that has to do with anything. Don't you? I pulled my phone from my clutch. 3 letters glowed there. Now. The display behind me flickered. Harper's head snapped up, tears forgotten. What are you doing? The virtual fire log cut out. The screen went black for 2 seconds. Then it lit up again, displaying something entirely different. A computer desktop, blue background, neat rows of folders. Remote access activated appeared in white text. What is this? Douglas's voice had gone hard. Turn that off. I designed the electrical system for this house, I said pleasantly. Did you know that? You hired me fresh out of grad school, paid me in exposure and family discount rates. I turned back to the screen, watching as the cursor moved without anyone touching it. Owen, working from our home office in Portland. I installed every smart system, every camera, every sensor. I paused. The admin password was never changed. I recommended you change it, remember? I sent that email. Twice. Herman leaned forward, expression caught between fascination and horror. Chase had gone very still. This is illegal. Harper's voice cracked. Actually, it's not, I said. I'm the system administrator on record. I have full legal access. Owen is simply helping me retrieve my own files. Vivian stood up, her chair scraping. Files? What files? The cursor moved to a folder. The label made Harper gasp. Project Truth. When you dismissed my career as playing with plants, I said quietly, you forgot I'm an architect. Architects plan. We think 3 steps ahead. We build systems designed to last. My father's face had gone red. You had no right to put cameras in our home without telling us. I told you. My voice stayed level. I gave you a 40-page manual. You signed off on everything. There's a camera at the front door, one at the side entrance, one covering the driveway. All disclosed, all legal. All recording to a professional NVR system in your wine cellar. What's an NVR system? Vivian's voice sounded smaller. Network video recorder. I finally looked at her. It's not cloud storage that deletes after 6 months. It's physical hard drives, professional grade, data retention for 2 years. I watched the color drain from Harper's face. She understood. You're bluffing, she whispered. I turned back to the screen. The cursor hovered over the folder. Do you remember March 15th, Harper? My voice was almost gentle. It was a Tuesday, cold. You were wearing your cream cashmere coat. The FedEx driver arrived at 10:15 a.m. Stop it! Harper's voice rose. Mom, make her stop! The package was red, I continued. Express overnight, 4 linen boxes inside, wrapped in ivory ribbon. My wedding invitations. Chase's head turned toward Harper, slowly. Turn it off! Harper screamed. Mom, make her turn it off! But Vivian was frozen, eyes locked on the screen. I hit enter on my phone. Owen opened the folder. The first image filled the screen in perfect high definition. A FedEx receipt. Signature line clearly visible. Isabella Whitmore. Signed in Harper's distinctive looping handwriting. Date, March 15th. Time, 10:15 a.m. The dining room exploded into chaos, but I just stood there, phone in hand, watching my sister's carefully constructed world begin to crack. That's my signature, Harper said immediately, her voice flat, dangerous. So what? I signed for a package. That doesn't prove anything except that I was home that day. She was recovering, fast. Evidence 1, I said. Clinical, like presenting designs to a difficult client. You signed for a package from Sloane and Owen Carter on March 15th, 3 weeks after our wedding invitations were mailed. I don't remember every package I signed for. Harper crossed her arms. We get deliveries constantly. My brand partnerships alone generate dozens of shipments per week. But, Vivian sat up straighter, grasping at this explanation. That's true. Harper's business requires constant inventory management. Owen's cursor moved on the screen. The receipt disappeared, replaced by a screenshot of an email inbox. My mother's email inbox. Evidence 2, I said. The screen showed Vivian's Gmail account settings. Filters. One filter sat at the top of the list, marked with a red flag. Rule name, wedding block, I read aloud. If subject contains wedding and Sloane, then delete permanently. Skip inbox, do not archive. The creation date sat right there, March 17th, 2 days after the invitations were delivered. This filter was installed from an IP address that traces back to Harper's device, I continued. Her iPhone specifically. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of a trap snapping shut. Vivian's face had gone pale. That's not possible. I never authorized anything like that. Of course you didn't. I met my mother's eyes. Harper has your password. She's had it for years. Remember when she set up your 2-factor authentication last Christmas? Chase stood up slowly, staring at Harper like he was seeing her for the first time. You hacked into your mother's email? I didn't hack anything. Harper's voice pitched higher. I have access because Mom asked me to help manage her correspondence. By deleting emails about your daughter's wedding? Herman's voice cut through the room. He was no longer the uncomfortable observer. He was engaged, focused. Harper stood abruptly. Fine, yes, I hid the invitations, but I did it to protect Mom and Dad. The room froze. She was pivoting. You sent those invitations last minute, she continued, voice trembling. For some shabby garden in Oregon. Dad has high blood pressure. Mom worries about image. I saw that location you chose, Sloane, that rustic aesthetic, and I was afraid. She wiped her eyes. Afraid they'd be humiliated. So yes, I hid them. I threw them away. I did it out of love. Vivian inhaled sharply, reaching for this new narrative. You were protecting us? Of course I was, Harper's voice cracked. Sloane always does things her own way. I couldn't let you suffer through some subpar wedding. It was brilliant. Villain becomes hero in 30 seconds. Chase's frown deepened, not buying it. But my parents were already softening. I didn't panic. I smiled, the kind you give a child lying badly. Protecting them, I repeated softly. That's your story? It's the truth. Then why, I said, each word deliberate, did you throw the invitations in the recycling bin instead of hiding them in a drawer? Harper blinked. What? If you were protecting Mom and Dad, you would have hidden the invitations somewhere safe, somewhere you could retrieve them later if needed. But you didn't do that, did you? Chase turned to look at Harper. Really look. Did you? I was upset, Harper said quickly. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's interesting, I said, because the video footage suggests you were thinking very clearly. I nodded to the screen. Owen clicked play. The video quality was stunning. Crystal clear footage from the front door camera. The timestamp read, March 15th, 10:14 a.m. The FedEx truck pulled into frame. The driver climbed out, carrying a red package. He rang the doorbell. Harper appeared 30 seconds later. Yoga pants, cropped hoodie, high ponytail. She smiled at the driver, signed the tablet, accepted the package. The driver left. Harper looked down at the package, read the return address label. Sloane and Owen Carter. Her expression changed. The smile vanished. Something cold and sharp took its place. She glanced around, checking if anyone was watching. Then she walked to the side of the house, to the recycling bins behind a decorative lattice screen. She didn't hesitate, didn't pause, didn't open the package. She just hurled it into the bin like garbage, wiped her hands on her pants, walked inside. The video ended. The dining room held its breath. Chase's face had gone blank, carefully blank. "There's your protection," I said quietly. "There's your love." Chase stood so abruptly his chair scraped across the floor. "You threw your sister's wedding invitations in the trash?" His voice was quiet, which made it worse. "Because you were afraid of sharing the spotlight?" Harper reached for his arm. "Chase, I can explain." He jerked away. "You gave her a book about dying alone when you knew she was married?" He stared at her. "I cannot marry a monster." The word hung in the air. Monster. Harper's face crumpled. "You don't understand." But Chase was already moving. He pulled the engagement ring off her finger. The 4-carat diamond caught the light one last time. He placed it on the table with a deliberate click. "We're done." Vivian surged to her feet. "Chase, don't be hasty. Harper made a mistake." "A mistake?" Chase's laugh was harsh. "Mrs. Whitmore, your daughter committed mail tampering. She sabotaged her own sister's wedding. She lied to my face for 8 months." He shook his head. "I wanted to marry into a family with integrity." Herman rose beside his son, his expression carved from granite. He turned to my father. "Douglas." Herman's voice carried 40 years of business weight. "I've always believed that a man who cannot manage his household cannot manage a business." My father's whiskey glass paused halfway to his mouth. "Your daughter is deceitful." Herman gestured toward Harper. "Your wife enables her. And you are irresponsible." His gaze settled on Douglas. "The merger project next month? Consider it canceled. Beaumont Capital Group will not do business with the Whitmore family." The words landed like physical blows. $50 million in contracts, my father's crowning achievement. Gone. "Herman, please." Douglas finally found his voice. "We can discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss." Harper exploded from her chair. "This is your fault!" She whirled on me. "You ruined everything. I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone what you did." "No." The word came out soft, but it stopped her. "You won't." "Watch me." Harper's voice climbed toward hysteria. "I have 1.5 million followers. I know Washington law prohibits secret audio recording," I said, voice level. "So the video of tonight's dinner stays private. I won't publish it." Harper's expression shifted toward triumph. "However," I paused, "the CCTV footage of you dumping that FedEx package? That's evidence of federal mail tampering. Title 18, United States Code, Section 1708, up to 5 years in federal prison." The color drained from Harper's face. "If you dare speak one lie about me on social media, that video and a lawsuit go straight to the police and your brand sponsors." I tilted my head. "I wonder how your sponsors will feel about their ambassador being investigated for federal crimes." Harper collapsed back into her chair. The sound that came out wasn't quite a sob. It was the sound of someone's world imploding. Vivian sat frozen. Douglas stared at the table. I reached for the silver gift box, the one with the app and the book. I walked around the table. Harper flinched as I approached. I placed the box in front of her, right next to Chase's abandoned engagement ring. "Keep it," I said. "You need it more than I do now." The words tasted like freedom. Then it happened. The display above the fireplace flickered violently. Multiple video feeds were playing. The system was overloading. A smell hit the air. Burning plastic. "Owen," I whispered, pulling out my phone. "Shut it down. Now." But it was too late. Smoke began curling from the wall outlet behind the display. Harper screamed. "What's happening?" Sparks shot from the wall. Small flames became visible behind the mounted display. "Everyone out!" Douglas roared. "Fire!" The old mansion's wiring, original from the 1920s, couldn't handle the electrical surge. Fire spread through the wall cavity with terrifying speed. Chaos erupted. Harper grabbed her phone and purse, shrieking. Vivian was screaming about family photos. Douglas trying to grab business documents. "Leave it!" Herman shouted. "Everyone outside, now!" We scrambled for the doors. The catering staff fled through the kitchen. Chase and Herman headed for the front entrance. I stayed calm, walked deliberately. The evidence was already backed up remotely. By the time we hit the front lawn, flames were visible through the living room windows. The outdoor security monitors by the gate, still running on a separate circuit, displayed the evidence for anyone to see. Neighbors were gathering, staring at the screens, at the FedEx signature, at the video of Harper throwing invitations away. Harper was hysterical on the lawn. "She did this! She hacked the system and started a fire!" "I'm the licensed system administrator," I said calmly. "The fire was accidental. Electrical overload." Sirens wailed in the distance. Station 47 was coming. The fire truck screamed up the circular driveway, lights painting the snow-covered lawn in red and blue. Captain Dean Mitchell jumped out first, his crew already moving with practiced efficiency. "I'm Captain Mitchell," he said, approaching our group on the lawn. "Is everyone out of the house?" "Yes," Douglas said quickly. "Everyone's safe. It's just an electrical fire." "She did this!" Harper pointed at me, her mascara streaking down her face. "She hacked our system. She caused this fire." Dean's eyes moved between us, taking in the scene, the family in chaos. Chase and Herman standing apart. Me, calm, phone in my hand. The outdoor security monitors still displaying evidence. "I'm the licensed system administrator," I said to Dean, my voice steady. "I have full legal access to the smart home system I designed for this property. The fire was accidental. Electrical overload from running multiple high-definition video feeds simultaneously. The house has original 1920s wiring that couldn't handle the load." Dean nodded slowly. His eyes tracked to the monitors by the gate. I saw him take in the images. The FedEx receipt, the video still playing on loop. A neighbor approached one of the firefighters. "We saw the whole thing on those screens. That girl," he pointed at Harper, "threw her sister's wedding invitations in the trash. It's all right there." Harper let out a strangled sound. Dean's gaze returned to me. Understanding crossed his face. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you might want to step back. We need to assess the structure." His crew was already connecting hoses, assessing entry points. The fire had spread through the wall cavity to the attic space. Smoke poured from the upper windows. Chase walked over to Harper. His face was stone. "You committed a federal crime," he said, his voice carrying across the lawn. "You lied to me for 8 months. You sabotaged your own sister." He turned to Douglas, who was watching his mansion burn. "Keep the ring. She'll need to sell it for legal fees." He walked away, toward his father's car. Herman approached Douglas. My father looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago.
"Douglas," Herman said, his voice formal, cold. "Your daughter is deceitful. Your wife enables her. You are irresponsible." He gestured to the burning mansion. "The merger is canceled. Beaumont Capital will not associate with your family." He paused. "And I'm advising the building commission to review every smart home system your daughter designed. If she's willing to misuse her access here." "Actually, Mr. Beaumont," I stepped forward, pulled up my phone. "I have documentation showing I followed every legal protocol. My access was authorized and disclosed. Fire marshal can confirm this was accidental overload, not sabotage. I met Herman's eyes. I built this system. I know exactly what it can and cannot handle. The overload was a consequence of pulling multiple large video files simultaneously, something the system wasn't designed for. It was my miscalculation of the electrical load, not deliberate sabotage. Herman studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I appreciate your honesty, Miss Carter. He turned back to Douglas. But my statement about the merger stands. This family's dysfunction is not something Beaumont Capital will be associated with. He walked away. Dean's crew was making progress. The fire was being contained to the living room and attic space, but the damage was extensive. Water and smoke would make most of the mansion uninhabitable. Harper stood alone on the lawn. No ring, no fiancé, no family rallying around her. Just her phone and her purse and the ruins of the life she'd built on lies. Vivian finally approached me, her perfect posture crumbling. "Sloane," she whispered, "please, we can fix this. We can—" "No," I said simply. "We can't." I pulled out my phone, ordered an Uber. The driver was 8 minutes away. Dean approached as his crew continued working. "Miss Carter, the fire marshal will want to speak with you about the system design." "Of course," I said. "I'll provide full documentation. System schematics, load calculations, installation records, everything." He nodded, then lowered his voice. "For what it's worth, I saw what was on those monitors before we shut them down." I met his eyes. "Then you know why this had to happen." "Yeah," he said quietly. "I do." My Uber pulled up at the end of the driveway, past the fire trucks, past the neighbors, past the outdoor monitors that were finally going dark as Dean's crew shut down the external circuits. I walked toward it, not looking back. "Sloane, wait!" Vivian's voice, desperate, thin. I kept walking. Behind me, I heard Harper's sobs, Douglas's voice, hoarse with shock, Vivian's pleas fading into the night. The December air hit my face, clean, sharp, real. I climbed into the back seat. "Portland International Airport, please." As we pulled away, I allowed myself one look back. The Whitmore Manor blazed against the night sky. Firefighters silhouetted against the flames. My family, standing on the lawn like refugees from their own choices. I pulled out my phone and video called Owen. His face filled the screen, hair messy, eyes searching mine. "Is it done?" he asked. "It's done." "How bad was the fire?" "Bad enough," I said. "Electrical overload, just like I calculated it might if the system was pushed too hard. The fire marshal will rule it accidental." Owen's expression was careful. "You knew it might happen." "I knew the system had limits," I said. "I knew the old wiring couldn't handle that kind of simultaneous load. I built fail-safes, but they weren't designed for what we did tonight." "You burned the bridge," Owen said softly. "I cleared the rot," I corrected. "There's a difference." He smiled, sad but understanding. "Come home." "I'm on my way." 3 days later, I was unpacking groceries in our Portland kitchen when the FedEx truck pulled up. The box sat on the welcome mat, square and flat. I knew what it was before I opened it. A check. $75,000, written in my father's careful architect's print. The note was brief, typed on his business letterhead. "I'm sorry. Please stay silent about the merger." I stood there holding $75,000, and I thought about the girl who would have cashed this check, the one who showed up on Christmas Eve still hoping, the one who saved their chairs at her wedding. She was gone. I tore the check in half, then quarters, then confetti. My phone was already in my hand. I arranged the pieces on the granite counter, photographed them, opened the family group chat. 3 people: Mom, Dad, Harper. I typed, "I don't sell my silence. I'm gifting it to you for free, as a parting gift. Do not contact me again." My thumb hovered over send for 3 seconds. Then I pressed it. The message showed delivered. Then read. Someone started typing, stopped, started again. I didn't wait to see what they'd say. I scrolled to the top of the chat, tapped Settings, Leave Group. Are you sure? I'd never been more sure of anything. Leave. New Year's Eve arrived wrapped in Portland rain and the smell of Owen's mother's pot roast. His family crowded into their living room, laughing, arguing about what movie to watch before the countdown. His sister stole the remote. His nephew spilled grape juice on the carpet. His mother hugged me tight. I felt the weight of the sapphire brooch on her coat pressing against my shoulder. Real, solid, an actual heirloom passed down with love. "Come on," Owen said, taking my hand. "Let's get some air before the fireworks." We stepped onto the back porch. The city hummed with celebration. Owen wrapped his arm around my waist. I leaned into him, breathing in rain and cedar and freedom. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. I thought about the empty chairs, the hidden invitations, the cruel gift, the check torn into pieces, the mansion still being repaired, the merger canceled, the family broken. "Not one," I said. The first firework exploded overhead, gold sparks against black sky. Owen's family cheered from inside. Through the window I could see them raising glasses, pulling each other into hugs. I'm not the Whitmore daughter anymore. I'm Sloane Carter, architect of landscapes, and now, finally, architect of my own life. I cleared the weeds, I burned out the rot, and here, in this garden I chose, something real is growing.
That was Sloane Carter. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. We got the call at 8:46 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Structure fire at Whitmore Manor, electrical fire in the main living area. When we arrived, the entire family was on the front lawn. And I've been doing this for 18 years, but I've never seen anything quite like what we found that night. The family was screaming at each other, the mother trying to control the narrative, the father worried about business deals, one daughter hysterical, blaming her sister for the fire. And standing apart from all of them, completely calm, was Sloane. The outdoor security monitors were still running when we arrived, still displaying evidence, video footage of her sister throwing wedding invitations in the trash, email records showing deliberate sabotage. We saw it, the neighbors saw it, the sister's fiancé saw it, my crew saw it. Sometimes fires expose more than structural damage. Sometimes they expose the rot that's been hiding behind expensive wallpaper and family portraits. Sloane didn't start that fire deliberately. The electrical overload was accidental, a consequence of pulling truth out of a system designed to hide it. The old wiring in that mansion couldn't handle the load of running multiple high-definition video feeds simultaneously. But here's what I learned that night. Some fires are necessary, not the ones that destroy buildings, but the ones that burn away toxic relationships, the ones that clear space for something healthier to grow. The Whitmore family lost their mansion, their business deal, and their reputation that night. But Sloane? She walked away with something they never gave her. Her freedom. I've fought a lot of fires in my career. House fires, wildfires, electrical fires, chemical fires. But the hardest fires to fight aren't the ones consuming buildings. They're the ones we have to set ourselves. The ones where we deliberately burn bridges with people who were supposed to love us. Sloane burned that bridge. And she did it with the same precision she used to design that smart home system. She calculated the load. She knew the limits. She understood exactly what would happen when she pushed that system past its breaking point. The fire was accidental in the eyes of the law. But the bridge burning, that was completely intentional. And sometimes that's exactly what has to happen. If you're trapped in a family that treats you like you don't matter, remember this. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to burn those bridges. You're allowed to build a life with people who actually see your worth. The Whitmores rebuilt their mansion. I heard they updated all the wiring, brought it up to code, but they didn't rebuild their family. That damage was permanent. And Sloane? Last I heard, she's thriving in Portland, with a husband who answers her calls, with in-laws who show up when they're invited, with a family she chose instead of one she was born into. Sometimes the ashes of what we burn become the fertilizer for what we grow. I'm Captain Dean Mitchell, Station 47. Stay safe out there.